Innovation is in our veins. Soon the whole world will know our names. Sharing our knowledge and freedom reign. We here for the people, you know it's our way. Setting foundations is part of the dream. It doesn't matter if you're new to the game. Listen up now, cause we all gon' say, elevate, 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 higher, elevate, 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 higher. We gon' rise up, we all gon' shine. Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. It's so great to have you all on one more time. It's your boy Josh
Dalton,
and we're grateful to be back on with you yet again, baby.
After the snowstorm of the century, dog.
Yeah, we
Shut the city down, man.
Yeah, dude, it was no joke. I was having a hard time out there. I lucked out on my end because we had to because of the snow, we couldn't record our normal night.
Yeah, and
we had the issue of trying to figure out when we were gonna record. So we did it on a late, early Friday evening, and that's when the snow hit.
Yeah,
and I'm like, all right, I have so much to do. I got to get out of here early. There's a lot of snow on my driveway. My driveway is ginormous now. What am I gonna do? And then as I'm on a work call, I hear on the door. I was like, praise God.
Pray that's a kid with a shovel.
Yeah, seriously. And I show up and I open the door. And it's an older gentleman.
Oh.
I was like, okay. He's like, I want to know if you wanted your driveway shovel. I was like, how much we talking here? And he said, $40. I was like, 40. Seems steep. But I was like, but I also want just this done.
Yeah.
So I did it. Went $40 and I'm glad I paid the money because it took 3 men to do it.
Oh.
And took them an hour.
Oh, dude, you won.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
But they also each just got paid 20. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. $40. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you took advantage of them.
Yeah. Swindled them hardcore. So that's kind of how it went. And but yeah, that was the start. That was my snow day.
Oh, yeah, I know. Snow days are not the same as when you were a kid, man.
Especially in the technology age, because you're not just not working; you are working,
and you're stuck in the home with snow covering your doorstep and driveway and car, and
trying to figure out when you actually shovel, when you're not.
Yeah. So. Oh, dude. The worst thing when I was a kid, you go there, shovel, 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 and the plow comes ripping up your street and just plows your driveway.
Dude, it's the worst thing.
It's like they knew you were out doing it, and they would come just plow it in. And then you'd have like the neighbor who would shovel into the road, and so then it gets in your driveway too. Oh,
we love those neighbors.
My grandfather was 100% that guy, but just he put it down so it would go into it wasn't going to his. He put it down so it was going to the other person's driveway.
What a snake.
Oh, yeah. He just pushed it out.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Holy jumping. But a lot of stuff to get into today. First off, we're getting into the government ban on government devices of the old TikTok.
Yeah. To be quite honest, I saw this headline and I kind of gasped because I thought it's not already banned. Like, you can just install whatever you want on a government phone. Like, there's corporations with stricter policies.
Yeah.
Like, that was interesting to me that they were allowed to even access the App Store on a work device.
Yeah, it was I was curious of the restrictions that they have for government workers. I was like, shouldn't they have, I guess, yeah, it was like the fact that a government worker can install social media on their phone. That doesn't seem, it just doesn't seem like.
Because that should not be your personal phone.
No.
It's a work phone.
Yeah, exactly.
By the government.
It was weird. I was kind of thrown off. And I'm like, cool, I'm glad they're banning it because there is an issue of security and stuff on these things. But the fact, there was funny, who was it? Provincial MP out of Ontario. She's really heavy on TikTok. And she's like, well, luckily I've been using my personal this whole time, so this ain't affecting me. I'm still here. I was like, sheesh. But yeah, please, you did a lot of research into this. Run us through it.
Yeah, dude. So, it caught my eye right away because, TikTok obviously is how we connect with a lot of people. So I saw anything involving TikTok. At first, I saw the headline and I thought it said Canada bans TikTok. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But then I obviously read the whole thing. It's on government devices. So the thing that really struck out to me was that this is coming as a federal government we should call it like a block or federal government action. But I think I sent you a link as well that Nova Scotia is doing it as well on our level.
Oh no, I didn't see that link.
Oh, I don't know if I can send it to you right now if we want to talk about it, because let me see here.
I saw that they're on the list of provinces that were banning it on a provincial level.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't see the article that they were doing it.
Yeah, okay, let me find it here. But yeah, to my point is, I saw it on a federal level and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's a federal government. Like, of course we're gonna ban it. Newfoundland has joined in on it as well. And this is from the Star. So, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador ban TikTok on government-issued devices. Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador have banned TikTok on government-issued mobile devices, joining a growing list of jurisdictions that have imposed restrictions on the Chinese-owned social media network. So, the video sharing platform has come under increased scrutiny in Canada and elsewhere because the Chinese government has a stake in its owner. ByteDance and Chinese laws allow the state to demand access to user data. So that's the key part there, is that it allows access to user data. I think we have the link here of what TikTok tracks. Mm-hmm. So that is the user data that effectively the Chinese government and a private corporation, so there's two entities that I don't really think the government wants the information seen by. So this is an article from The Guardian. TikTok can track users' every tap as they visit other sites through iOS app, new research shows. So just from the title of that article, what I take away from that, especially with the dev background, is like they've got your device basically pinned. Like, they know this person has this iPhone, and now they have what I guess you'd call tracker pixels. So other websites can put TikTok pixels in their metadata. So when you navigate to their website off of TikTok, that browsing history and experience can be sent back to TikTok. So I think there's a general understanding that when you use a platform like TikTok or Facebook, they're tracking you. It's interesting when they start tracking you out of that platform. So I think if we scroll down, it will show that's it there. So when opening a website from within TikTok iOS app, they inject code that can observe every keyboard input, which may include credit card details, passwords, or other sensitive information. So, like when you're shown, like say you were on our Elevate profile and you click our link in bio, it opens in like Safari, but it's Safari disguised as TikTok, basically. It looks like it's inside the app.
Yeah.
So at runtime, they're injecting this JavaScript code that's a keylogger. So a keylogger is something like, I think 90s parents loved them on their computers to like see what their kids were typing, kind of thing. And it's effectively that same technology. So if you were, let's say, on TikTok and someone sent you a link in DM to maybe like a Facebook article or somehow, and it opened up and then you logged in, because you have to log in to view things on Facebook, it would remember those keystrokes, which is your password, your login. So imagine that on a government device. I would say that's wildly inappropriate for two reasons, really. The minor reason that comes to my mind is, like maybe they log into something confidential through TikTok somehow, and then they have the username and password to a government platform. But I don't really think that's the major use case, because I don't know how you would really navigate to a government website within TikTok. But what you may do is log into your other social media platforms through TikTok. And especially if you work in government, I think those people are more susceptible to things like blackmail or exposing or things like that. So they may be opening themselves up to personal backlash, depending on where they sit in the government. Like if I knew I had, say, Doug Ford's TikTok account, and I could see it in the back end as the Chinese government, and I could see that he was logging into his iCloud while in TikTok. And if I can get in there and get, maybe he's got classified documents or nude photos or things like that they could expose to harm him, I think that's more so the concern I see.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the one thing I remember, obviously Joe Rogan was super famous for spending an hour reading through the privacy details for TikTok. And that was a very I found that interesting only because super bland episode, but it was like one of his most viewed episodes because
no one had the patience to do it.
No, it was eye-opening what they were doing, right? You brought up the issue that I saw when you open a link on the TikTok iOS app, it's open inside of their in-app browser, and that's kind of how they explained what you just did.
Yeah.
Where they have the JavaScript. Did you see at any point when you were looking into it that, you know, even if you don't access a web page through a link in TikTok, that they're still kind of tracking you across your device in general?
Right. Yeah. So let's scroll down on this article here a little bit. So this article must not show it. However, what it does say is that a report released by Australian US cybersecurity firm Internet 2.0 in July warned the Chinese government could use the app to harvest personal information from in-app messages to device locations. Okay. So I think there's, to an extent, there is device information shared, but I think, and say what you want about Apple, I think there is a level of Apple security that does prevent apps from reading too far into your phone, which is a good thing, because this article is mainly focused around iOS. Android is a completely different ballpark because it's a lot more developer friendly, which can also mean it's a lot more hacker friendly. So I can't really speak to the Android side of things because I suspect that's a completely different ballgame.
Definitely.
But I think the only concern with iOS is in-app and then like device information. But device information can still be crucial. Things like your MAC address or other, you know, what I would call like unique identifiers to that device could be harmful to be exposed.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point with, obviously, let's kind of single back onto the idea of it being on government devices.
Yeah.
Because you said, you know, whether it's, you know, whether you can't totally, you know, look into how, like, it's up for debate of how deep they're going into your device. But the idea of like what they can do is still a lot.
Yeah.
Or at least what's been verified.
That's the key there is what's been verified. Because there's a ton of stories about information across people's entire devices being opened up to TikTok, but none of that's been verified. And so that's, I suppose, the trickier part in saying, yeah, TikTok looks at everything. So,
yeah, I think, you know, I wanted to kind of bring up that point because this kind of will kind of lead itself well into our episode on Thursday.
Yeah.
Where, if you open yourself up to kind of foreign influence and then having blackmail over you, now you have like a foreign entity who's now has control over what you say and what you do when it comes to legislation, how you govern. They kind of are clearly, they've done something with our current prime minister as it is. And so the fact that could be opened up to a lot of different politicians is interesting, and we'll see where that goes. However, I did find it interesting that the Trudeau government was so quick to shut everything down on government devices when it comes to TikTok. Or is it them trying to make themselves look better because of what's been going on with the election stuff? Or I don't know.
Because I'm glad you bring that up because it is interesting timing, especially where like the United States, I mean, over a year ago was talking about banning the app completely, like just banning TikTok. And we didn't really hear people to Canada at that time. Like it was, no problem, like nothing. Then we start questioning elections in Canada, learning of potential Chinese, I guess what they're using the word is meddling. And now it's a ban on TikTok on government devices. It reads like it's a way to distance themselves from China in the public eye. It certainly reads like that. And I mean, I think it's a good thing, not because it's China, but because it's a social media platform owned by a private company on a government phone. To me, a work phone is for email, phone calls, text messages.
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be an app store on a work phone.
I know, right?
In my opinion, like that's what a personal phone is for. When I worked at Virgin Mobile, my manager had paid for their phone line. Like all the managers' phone lines were paid for, of course. The things that they could tap in to see, like if they wanted to, because it's now government, it's now a corporate phone. And so they need to make sure that they're not using customer data on the phone. They need to make sure that there's no apps on there that may potentially leak, emails that are internal correspondence. Like they had really strict and rigorous policies, which is a good thing, I think, to protect a corporation, to protect the entity. Mm-hmm. And so to see a government allow a little more leeway than you'd expect is really intriguing. Intriguing in a way that makes me think, what else is going on these phones? What else are they allowed to do on these phones?
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see where that goes. If there is, I would love to know more of what they're doing on their phones. Because you said, like, from my perspective, if I had a company phone, there's just nowhere on God's green earth that I'm ever accessing anything personal on a work phone. Because at least from me and my experience, as you said, like, companies upload a lot of software onto their devices to make sure that you're doing everything by the book. So the fact that a company could potentially see messages of my own, like, I don't want them seeing that. So the idea that, like, yeah, you could download social media apps on a government device, I found that really interesting. However, these government phones have some amazing plans on them. Dude, I was talking to one worker who literally just unlimited data.
Yeah. Proper unlimited.
Yeah, proper unlimited. Nothing will be throttled.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yikes, it's just, I wish I could get hooked up with something like that.
Well, when the government is subsidizing, through the back end, through covered up deals, the three main telecommunications are like, yeah, sure, we'll give you guys a good plan.
Yeah. Exactly. And so the reason I bring that up is because what he would tell me is because of the unlimited data, it would definitely influence his behaviors of how often he used his personal phone. Because his work phone had all the unlimited data that he didn't have to pay for. So, like, there was times where, like, their child would sneak his phone and watch a bunch of movies on it, or, like, I'm curious if that happens with some of these government devices as well.
So then I tossed myself this, I guess you'd call it like a not a moral question, but just a question of, should the rules be black and white? And I guess with the government, you kind of have to be black and white. You have to be, here's the line, no personal use. But watching movies, I don't think, is extremely harmful.
Especially if they're traveling.
Yeah, but it does set the precedent that you can use this device for non-work related things, which I think is dangerous. Especially right now in the climate of Canada. It's not a great time for the government to be having to admit to personal use on government phones, just with everything going on in our political climate. It's not a great time to have to admit that.
No. Nope. And we'll end up seeing what ends up happening with it. It's because there are, who was it? I believe it was 23andMe. Don't quote me on that, but it was one of those companies that are owned by a Chinese parent company.
Right.
And that was the concern people had. It's like, well, they are now getting a lot of North American data on what your DNA makeup is. That was concerning. People, there's a lot of people out there, and there's people like that who listen to this podcast. Like, they can do whatever they want. I don't care. The problem
I am not one of those people.
The problem is I have with it, though, people don't think about is, we all know at this point, as much as some people like to pretend it didn't happen, COVID started in the lab. Good old Wuhan. The coronavirus lab specifically is where
the name of the lab is the name of the disease.
Yeah. Wonder how that worked.
Yeah.
Shout out Jon Stewart for calling that one out.
Shout out Jon Stewart, period. He's great. Do you not like him?
No, I think he's. I do think he's great. It was funny timing for him to kind of pop out and like make his buddy Colbert really uncomfortable on live television for that one.
Made him very uncomfortable, and he made a senator the other day from Texas, I think, about gun control even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, that was actually, I don't even think that was a senator. I could be wrong, but he was in politics, but he was like, I think he leaned more to the libertarian side of things.
The one I saw definitely said senator.
Oh, he said he was senator? Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably saw the same thing then.
Yeah, it said senator, and he just, I've never seen a man interview someone with such boundaries. Like he was directing the conversation like a real reporter. It was interesting.
Yeah, it's that's what people loved Jon Stewart for in the first place. That was his show. He was funny that way. The crazy part about Jon Stewart, which is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but he was viewed as a liberal back in those days.
Wow.
And now he's seen as right-leaning.
Right.
It shows you how
skewed today is, maybe, or how skewed back. Who knows?
Yeah. I just know with I had a friend ask me the other day. It's like, all right, they were just kind of getting to know me a little bit, and there's like, what are your political affiliations, like, or more so, where do you lean on like the political spectrum? So I had to ask.
Nothing like an icebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. I had to ask him straight up. I was like, so are we talking about like my political beliefs in like 2023 or like my political beliefs in 2010?
Right.
I really want to know kind of what we're thinking, what we're chatting with here. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And like, that's when someone asks me that question of what do you mean? I was like, ooh, are you not aware of what's going on in our political discourse the past 4 years?
Yeah. And to say, what do you mean? It's like, well, I mean, maybe you've changed. Maybe you've grown. Maybe the reasons in your life dictate you need to swing a certain way. And so I think it's only normal to change.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, I mean, it's definitely a fair point. The thing I found interesting with it was when I brought up the point of like, well, the Overton window has shifted so much to the left that anyone who's sensible is now viewed as right wing now. So, like, yes, I get in today, 2023, in a Canadian context, I'm definitely viewed as right leaning. I'm viewed as a conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But back in 2010, if I held these same beliefs, I'd be viewed as a liberal.
Right.
Right to choose, just the right to do whatever you want. Essentially, like, you have the right to live your life, freedom of choice. But the government should do their job, and you know, minimally. Like, I don't think there should be huge government overreach, but I think they do have a hand to play. As much as I don't like them, they do have a part to play.
Yep.
It's simple as that. Like, I really do believe in social programs to a point. I do believe in smart, conservative fiscal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of viewed liberal back in the day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even look at Jean Chrétien or Paul Martin's way they ran their parties.
Yeah.
That would definitely be seen as right-leaning today.
Yes, especially Chrétien, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there's a skew in the landscape, in the way it's viewed, for sure. But I'm curious, how did that friend respond?
It made sense to him. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, okay, I see where you're coming from. And so, but we didn't actually spend much time on that topic. He just kind of like, okay, but just tell me what it is.
Right.
But like, it goes back to my initial point I was trying to make earlier, with the 23andMe stuff, where it's like, this stuff's kind of important because you have already had a virus stem out of a country, and now if they all have like a good chunk of American Canadian DNA data, what keeps them from now creating a virus that they know will take a good chunk of the country out?
Right. You're saying something that exploits a commonality, that a common DNA that we all share. Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Something I was thinking about. I was like, I think that is concerning.
That's concerning. So I always knew that, like you said, there's a multiple of those 23andMe ancestry. There's multiple. One of them, the CEO, is the sister of the CEO of YouTube. And so that was always my concern, was I thought my DNA was going to land in the hands of these corporations that were so interconnected in everything that I do online, that may also become problematic. And now seeing how corporations can be influenced by government, and how there's also government involvement in these DNA programs, it's just concerning. Like, just take your grandmother's word from where you're from. Just believe it. It's fine.
It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, that was the big stuff that came out with the Twitter stuff, was when Twitter was underneath the ownership prior to Elon taking it over.
Yeah.
They found out that there are plenty of ex-CIA, ex-government officials all working as, high up in Twitter. And then he started finding out there was a lot of commonalities and a lot of information sharing between the U.S. government and Twitter. And this is why there was a lot of, at the time, slanted right-leaning bias towards censoring right-leaning content. And then you get finding later that on Facebook that the FBI had their own portal that they could sign in and just start taking, flagging things for Facebook to take down.
Oh, flag them. Okay, I knew that. I thought you meant they could log in and take them down. Okay, they could flag them. Still, though.
Yeah.
They got their own login. They got their own backend system.
I wish I had that.
What's the URL, I wonder? FBI.facebook.com. FBI LOL.
Yeah, just like that. Boom. So I was just, it was,
It's too much involvement from external parties.
I'm not a fan of that. And so even, showing back up to Canada, what's been going on in our country and the involvement of Chinese officials with our Canadian officials and all this stuff.
It's murky waters. It's dangerous territory.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah,
I want to start off by those who are watching the show on YouTube. I apologize. We are without Philip tonight, so the switching is a little off because I'm the one doing it. And so there's times I've been talking this whole time and the camera's been on Dalton. So
it happens. Yeah. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, we're out here trying.
Yeah, we're doing our best, man. It's a hard life out here with our producer.
Yeah.
We need you, Philip.
Yeah, Philip, come back. We promised we didn't fire Philip.
Yeah, this is actually just a long-winded April Fool's joke.
It's almost a year old at this point.
Yeah, and people still find the video somehow and think we're jerks.
Yeah, especially when they view the video out of context of April 1st. It definitely
like,
comes across.
You guys are pigs. Yeah. You guys are misogynistic pigs.
But you're right.
Shut up, Courtney.
Yeah. Oh, gee. So, yeah, because it was, okay, this is not in our notes, but I did want to ask you this question.
Off the cuff, dog.
All right. Now, information's coming out and stuff. Who do you, and it doesn't have to be either or.
Okay.
It's open.
Okay.
But I'll ask the question anyways.
All right.
Who do you think are the good guys in this war over Ukraine? Is it Russia or is it NATO?
Who's the good guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's tough. So I would say it's NATO. However, the way that because if I'm not mistaken, NATO really wants Ukraine to join, right? Is that or
it's more so the opposite. Ukraine really wants to join NATO.
Join NATO. If that happens, I think that's wildly. That's going to spark that's like the World War III spark, I think, right? Like that's a big deal. And so I guess it's a double-edged sword. NATO offers them protection, but it also gives Russia, like at that point, there's no holds barred. So I don't know. My gut says NATO, but right. I'm curious of what you think.
Yeah, I've been doing some reading on it, and because I really just want to understand this conflict a little more and where it's coming from. And then I started looking into it, and some information was coming to light that I'm like, I'm starting to see where Russia's coming from. And NATO, not a huge fan of NATO, if I'm being honest. And so NATO started back in 1949, and it was kind of the response to, post World War II era, and then like the divide happened between East and West Germany.
Yep.
And then the Berlin Wall came down, and there was a promise made that, and it was voiced by a couple American officials at the time, so I think this was the 80s, that NATO would not expand. They would not expand east of Germany, and they'd kind of leave Russia alone, because NATO started as kind of an anti-Soviet
organization. Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it started. So Putin and Russia in general is just like, all right, just stay away from our borders. Don't expand. We'll do our own thing.
Yep.
And you do yours. Live like that. It'd be great. And then NATO kept expanding. And it went from 12 countries to now I believe it's 30 countries.
Gee.
And now you have Ukraine that was expressing interest. And then you end up finding out that Zelensky ran on a campaign of peace, bringing the country together, of kind of like that kind of territory closer to Russia and then the rest of Ukraine. He ran on like, let's bring it all together. Let's do awesome things. He got elected.
Yeah. People
wanted that. And then Boris Johnson hops on a plane as Zelensky's in talks with Putin over peace treaties. It's like, we're not doing no peace deals with them. And now Zelensky's hands are tied that he cannot run any peace deals or he will probably get taken out by the CIA most likely. And there's been such a threat between Germany's technology And the marriage of like Germany's technology and the resources that Russia have goes back to a conversation we had months ago
about energy.
And that Nord Stream pipeline 2 being blown up allegedly by the
in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And then, Biden being like, yeah, we're going to blow it up. And then it being blown up. Wild. And so as you kind of hearing these things, like we're on this side of the globe. It's like, but like Russia, like, relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But
it's
then,
easy to blame Russia.
Yeah, exactly. And then when this one interviewer, he put into context, he's like, okay, so what if Russia ended up having a military cohesion with, say, Mexico, and started putting Russian military bases in Mexico? You think America would stand for that?
Right.
No chance. So this is kind of what's happened is America, NATO have been goading this war for a long time. They put Zelensky in an impossible position, and now he's got to either he had to fight or lose his life essentially.
Yep.
And goat Russia into a war, and this is where we're at. Is from what the information I've seen, this was all started by NATO. This was goaded by NATO. Obviously, Russia took the first physical step.
Yeah. Because he's not going to play either.
Yeah, no, exactly. But from a political perspective, this was, from what I see and understand and what I've read, this was started by NATO. And Ukraine was just the unfortunate
conduit.
Yeah, for it.
They got used. They got used, man. Yeah, it's Zelensky doesn't come off as the sort of guy who loves war. Like he's not like there's certain leaders love war. Mm-hmm. He doesn't read that way at all.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of put in a tough spot. I mean, Buddy, is on friggin'. I mean, he was an actor.
He was right.
He's a comedian or something.
He did comedy skits. I thought. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's videos of him being naked on stage and everything. So.
And now he's the president.
Yeah.
You can do anything, kids.
Leading a war.
Yeah.
Gee.
I wonder what he thinks about tonight. Like, wow, how did I get here?
Yeah, I was thinking of that myself. Like, if I was put into Zelensky's position, where I was, a foreign power who had a lot more weapons than I did, was like, yeah, so you're either going to take an offensive position against a superpower, or you're not going to be leader anymore.
Yeah, or we're going to Epstein you.
Yeah. So what do you choose? Like, in that perspective, I'm like, I don't even know what I would choose. All I know is even if I decide to fight back, they take me out, they're going to install somebody else in my spot anyways, and they're going to do the same thing.
Yep.
I think, honestly, for me, I would step down. I would expose it all, step down, and just leave.
Yeah. Move in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
100%. Someone else's circus, someone else's monkeys now.
Yeah.
Not mine.
Yeah. If I'm trying to protect my family, I think that's what I'd probably end up doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as much as I'm not a fan of how much money we've given to Ukraine at this point for a war.
It sort of justifies it, though. It exposes why we did it.
Yeah. It makes sense of why all the money's going over there.
Yeah.
And from what I was learning, it kind of allowed me to kind of shift my anger and frustration from Zelensky, who I still think, like he's been on TV and he's always taking an offensive position that America needs to give more troops, NATO needs to give more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to understand why he's saying it. Because
he's like, you're putting me here.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to tell me that I had to do this, then you're going to give me every stinking thing you're going to give me to fight this thing because you guys made this impossible.
Yeah.
So
it gives us some context.
Yeah. It allows me to not be so frustrated at Zelensky himself for like constantly wanting, more money and more troops or whatever. And now I'm like looking at shifting to Trudeau, shifting to Biden, leadership in European countries. Now I'm starting to be like, okay, guys, you had Trudeau up on a stage in Toronto, Ukraine, and we know there was someone talking and, saying F Trudeau in the crowd. Then he got on his podium. He's like, you know what? Ukrainians can tell you more about freedom than you could. And the crowd cheers. Everyone's going wild, this, that, the other. And I was like, when I watched that video, I don't know Trudeau to be the type of guy who's really good to think on his feet. It seemed like it was a plant, but just might be me. Who knows?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him. Not a little bit.
Not at all.
Ugh.
He's performative. He is drama. So
he is the drama. Yeah. He is the tea. Yeah.
But did you see that video I was talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I was just like, man, get a life.
I'm like, no, people actually really just hate you. People really don't like you.
Like, you definitely played a part in goading us into this war, Trudeau. So yeah,
We're upset.
yeah, people are a little upset. So
Yeah. I personally would never go scream at someone like that, but you know what? I get why they did. I get it.
yeah, put some pressure on the boy. See how it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my perspective from what I've understood and read of over in the past 30, 40, 50 years. What's going on? So I'm just like, gee, we really are being led by a bunch of people who want us to be in a world war.
Perpetually.
And we all know that like Trump wasn't a part of that plan. That's why there was peace for a while, because there was a lot of tension when Obama was in power.
And it's right back.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Biden gets back in or gets in, but the military-industrial complex has full control again, and there's like, all right, war, here we go, America.
That is, it's like in their DNA. It is in the American DNA to like be at war, or to have something to do with war in some facet.
Well, we end up finding out that like, yeah, it's not the government who runs anything, but it's the military-industrial complex that runs things. That changes things. We understand that, and it's like, well, you look at all the money they've invested into artillery.
It's a business. War makes money.
Yeah, make sure you're investing in Lockheed Martin.
Exactly.
Get something out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Lockheed Martin, I mean, makes pretty much every single dollar off of government contracts. They are not a company without the government.
They are almost by extension
The
part of the government.
Yeah. So watch companies like that. It is true, especially at times like this, because you could make a buck.
Yeah. So that's not financial advice.
No, of course not. Do with it your money as you see fit, but just watch these companies because you're not wrong. Like these munitions have to come from somewhere.
And as we talked about last episode or a couple episodes ago, where
The cost of these things too.
the amount of money that they're spending is, I'm like, woo!
Mm-hmm.
It's there's some money to be made.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you look. There's families who have, like, I mean, the Rothschilds are pretty much funded every single war ever, but there are other, what I would call oligarchs who love war, and that's when they make the most money they make, and so it sucks that their business relies upon war.
Yeah.
You know, that part's really hard to accept.
Yeah. I think the other thing that is really hard to accept, and you start realizing where when you're growing up, I'll zoom out a little bit. When you're growing up, you always feel like you're growing up in the part of this world where you're the good guys, that you're bringing peace to the world and showing people how it's supposed to be done. And the more you grow up and the more the veil is lifted, you start realizing that you are in a country that is only in power because they essentially terrorize other countries and point guns at them and make sure they use the petrodollar or else. And you're just like, oh, I have the way of life I have, or the supposed freedom I have, because we have a chokehold on the rest of the world.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd probably get demolished.
Exactly. That's why the Americans have spent so much money on artillery and weapons, and as Canadians, you're just the younger brother that gets to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where I was kind of like, it was just a weird moment. There's only really one time I can understand from the history of, I guess, say the past 150 years of America existing, Canada. There's really only one war where I was like, we're the good guys in this. World War II. And even then, it took, like, America got pulled into that kicking and screaming. They didn't want to be a part of it. So here we are.
Here we are, man. Like on the brink of another one. So,
but they really want this one.
They really want it. Yeah. Buy some stocks, boys.
Buy some stock. Gee, but yeah, that's kind of how things are going. But last but not least, let's get into this, dude.
Yeah, man.
So, I'm curious, as you as a gun owner, I want to hear your perspective on this story. So you've heard about it.
I'm not personally a gun owner.
My bad. You grew up around gun owners.
Absolutely right. Say. Yeah.
And Milton Mann, 22, charged with murder, defended himself against a home invasion, lawyer says.
Yeah.
So against the crux of the story essentially is It was a home invasion, intruders in his house, armed, dangerous, and he protected himself and his mother. The shooting happened in a home on Gibson Crescent near Ontario Street South, Lewis Street, Lauren Avenue in Milton at about 5 a.m. on Sunday. Police have not released the identity of the man killed in the shooting. He was found dead at the scene, police said. So the guy was a legal gun owner, pulled out his weapon, shot the intruder.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on this? And oh yeah, he's in trouble. He's got arrested for it, and he's got to go through all these lawyer and courts to deal with it.
Yeah, which he shouldn't, because this was the right thing to do, in my opinion. Yeah, I think no matter what, if you have a family, I think there's an instinct in you that goes, okay, I have to protect now. Like, it's on, and it's me or him. And the part that really got my attention is he protected his family, which I 100% commend, and he was not really, in my opinion, shooting to kill. He only shot him once. Cops have filled people with lead when they shouldn't have and gotten away with it.
True.
So it's hard to say, oh, well, maybe it was just a reckless, he just wanted to kill him. It's like one shot. He only shot the gun once.
Disarmed him.
And then called the police. So it's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he defended his home. He defended his family and defended himself. So if he beat him up to the point that he was dead or almost died, would he be in trouble? I don't know. But who cares? Whatever it takes to protect your home and your family is fine, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, for me, I'm not going to bring my personal perspective in this because it's drastically different and a lot of people aren't going to like it. Mm-hmm. But from like a general perspective, I can understand, like, I think people should have the right to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. I think they should be allowed to take care of what's theirs. And if they have whatever at their disposal, take care of it. Mm-hmm. That's great. Like, I don't get in this country how the stupid laws and how vague they are with, like, you know, using equal force against force coming into your house. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so subjective and people get into so much trouble over it. And this man's getting into serious trouble over it, over something I don't think was his fault. You know,
don't break into people's houses and you won't get shot.
Imagine that.
There's a good lesson. Should be a lesson. If you break into people's homes, you could get shot.
Like what DeSantis said, eh?
What did he say?
It was during the hurricane or after the hurricane down there.
Oh, about messing with the people of Florida? Yeah. Judah. He's hard to take serious, but he's funny. But it's true. You played with the wrong guy. This guy was about it, and then he killed you. And for what? You were going to break in and burglarize him? You found out.
Screw around, find out, eh?
Yeah.
We can just throw out all the catchphrases on this one, but
because it's true. Also, I'm speechless. I just think it was I just cannot believe that, you know, he's going to be caught up in the judicial system over defending his family and his home. It sucks.
Minding his own business, doing.
Someone broke into his house. He didn't ask for that to happen. He didn't ask to have to shoot a man that night. He wasn't going out trying to kill someone that night. Someone broke into his home.
Seriously.
And it's 2023. People are crazy. People are unhinged. People now more than ever are just unhinged. And am I going to wait around and ask the burglar, oh, yeah, do you have a gun? If you have a gun, then okay, then I'll shoot you because that's equal force. But if you don't have a gun, I guess I'll just let you burgle. No, I'm shooting you. Like, are you crazy? I don't know if you have a gun or a knife. I don't know if you're scoping the place out because you've got 5 more guys out back. You don't ask to find out. You take action, you ask questions later.
Fair play.
And that's what this guy did. And unfortunately, he's now caught up in the system. I don't think he was wrong for doing it, though.
Yeah, I don't understand how in our country, the person who is the bad guy in the scenario gets an easier time dealing with authorities than the person who's just protecting themselves. It is wild to me.
It is wild. It's crazy. So did he kill the man?
Yeah.
He okay.
He died on the scene.
Yeah. Okay. Well, still, I mean, that one shot was a good one, but I don't think he was going to try and attempting, like, you know, it's pretty to shoot a handgun is you can empty a clip pretty quick, and so to just shoot him once is like, I just want this to stop and then we'll deal with it. It doesn't read like he was trying to kill him.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the gun owners in my life who do tell me what it's like, you know, to shoot a gun, and when you're in those scenarios, you're shooting for chest. You're aiming for the chest every time. And clearly was a good shot. Probably hit him in the heart. GG. So it's like you said, he was not the bad guy. He was the homeowner asleep, I think. Yeah. Well, rest in peace, man.
That's Canada.
Yeah. Welcome to this beautiful country.
Yeah, man.
That we call home. Gee. Well, that was a good show, man.
That was a good show. That was a good after snowstorm show. It put a little funk in our week, but you know what? We made it through.
Yeah, absolutely.
We made it through, man.
Yeah. And for those you out there, do not forget that we will be back on Thursday, so please tune in again for that. So whatever it is you're doing, whether you be trying to understand the Pythagorean theorem.
Oh.
I didn't pronounce that right.
Or use TikTok on your government mobile phone. Oh.
Or just go
not here.
Yeah, shoot. Talk, Bill. Whatever it is you're doing.
Wherever you are.
We love you.
We're out.
Peace.